Start again? Okay, we'll start again. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Grimsby. I'm going to first introduce the committee members and staff. So committee members this evening are Dan Collins to my right, and to his right, Fabia Billing. And we have 2 members absent this evening, but we do have a quorum. The staff members present this evening are Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning, who is online, I believe, or should be on his way, and Dilhara Aberwardine to my left, Administrative Coordinator. So just some brief announcements before we begin. Regarding live streaming, members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting. I'll briefly outline the meeting procedures. The purpose of the application and the relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given an opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request to the Secretary-Treasurer at coa@grimsby.ca. The applicant, the Town of Grimsby, the minister, or a specified person or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT, within 20 days of the date of giving notice under Section 17 is completed for consent, and 20 days as well of the date of decision for a minor variance application. Specified persons and certain public bodies include public utilities but do not include an individual or community association. So everyone present will be given the opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Each participant will be given 5 minutes to speak at max, and each participant may speak only once unless permitted to speak again. If you hear a comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. When you're called, we ask that you just state your name and address for the record. Agencies commenting on the application may request certain conditions be imposed, and voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight and are familiar with the lands subject to the applications. Regarding the pecuniary interest, does anyone have a pecuniary interest in the matters before us this evening? No, and I have none. And there's no request for withdrawal. So then we're going to first approve the minutes of the previous meeting. They've been circulated. Are there any questions or comments on those? No? If not, then moved by Dan Collins, seconded by Fabia Billing. The resolve that the minutes of the meeting held November 21st, 2023 be approved. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. Then the first applications this evening are, we have 2 applications, one for a minor variance at 548 Kemp Road East, application A3023, and a severance application B0523 at 271A Main Street West. So we'll have the Secretary-Treasurer present the application on a PowerPoint briefly, summarize any correspondence that we've received, and then we'll ask the agent or the owner to speak to the application if they'd like, and then open it up to the committee members for questions, and then members of the public if there are any. So, Dilhara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just... Oh, Dylan is waiting. Yeah, he's joining right now.
Okay, we have one more member of the committee, Dylan Bailey, joining us as well. So, welcome, Dylan, if you can hear us.
Okay. One minute, I'm not seeing the share option for the Zoom.
And Adam's trying to join us as well, so we do have all five. Adam Ottershead, welcome, if you can hear me. Dylan, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if the delay was on my end or what was happening, so I apologize.
No problem. And Adam's there as well. Hi, Adam. We're just getting set up for the first one, the variance.
Yeah, thank you. So the first one is application number A3023 for 548 Kemp Road East. The purpose of this application is to facilitate the construction of a one-story accessory building of a detached garage, to permit a minimum side yard setback of 0.9 meters for an accessory building, whereas 3 meters is required per section 4.18. Table 2 in zoning bylaw 1445, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 7% for an accessory building, whereas 5% is permitted. And finally, to permit a maximum overall lot coverage of 15%, whereas 7.5% is permitted. And this is a drawing of the site plan that was circulated in the notice of hearing as well. These are the current, this is a picture of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions of the site. And we've received correspondence from these agencies. So no concerns as such from any of the agencies. It is outside the MTO permit control area, so no comments from the Ministry of Transport. The Heritage Department offered no comments. Grimsby Power didn't offer any comments as well. Public Works offered a comment and a condition, which I will read out to you now. So they offered comments to say that any and all proposed works shall not encroach into neighboring properties. And the condition they're requesting is due to the proximity of the property line, town staff will require a lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that stormwater runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. The plan shall include all proposed downspout discharge locations. And the region has no objection, and they offered one condition regarding archaeological remains. So I will read that out now. Should deeply buried archaeological remains or resources be found during construction activities, all activities impacting archaeological resources must cease immediately. And the proponent must notify the Archaeology Programs Unit of the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism and contact a licensed archaeologist to carry out an archaeological assessment in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act and the standards and guidelines for consultant archaeologists. In the event that human remains are encountered during construction, all activities must cease immediately, and the Niagara Regional Police, as well as the Cemeteries Regulation Unit of the Ministry of Public and Business Services, must be contacted. In situations where human remains are associated with archaeological resources, the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism should also be notified to ensure that the site is not subject to unlicensed alterations, which would be a contravention of the Ontario Heritage Act. Okay, back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. As the owner here, I believe, did you wish to come forward? Maybe use the mic up here if you'd like, and elaborate on the application if you want, or respond to some of the conditions proposed.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
So this is it's a first go for me. So I appreciate the time, and I also appreciate all the effort that's been put into reviewing the application from the entire city staff and all parties that have had a look at it. The purpose of it is, I think, was stated in my application, just looking to store a classic vehicle, as well as you saw my tent trailer there in the driveway. It'd be nice to get that sheltered. I do have a question in regards to the lot grading plan. I didn't see any exemplars on the town or city website, and I'm just a bit confused as the merits of that requirement for this variance.
Okay, maybe Walter can answer that. It's kind of a standard request, but I know we were just mentioning something about that. It was added at the last minute. So Walter first, if you want to comment.
Yeah, typically the lot grading plan is requested, and it's not for the entire lot. I'm assuming they just want you to demonstrate that after the work is done, that the grading won't be affected on the property, and they want to see where the downspouts are going, and that you're not draining onto the neighboring property,
Okay.
right?
So it's not like a surveyor type, like I can sketch it out showing the.
Well,
the grading?
I don't know. That's
Okay.
something, we can give you the contacts
Okay.
information. So if the individual that provided the comments would be the appropriate person to contact, and they'll be able to provide you with the information about what information would need to be provided to satisfy that requirement.
Any questions from the committee members first then? Dan?
Thank you. I have a comment. Can I comment on the condition now? Is that okay? Then it says here that the town staff require a lot grading and drainage plan. Can we just change the word plan to sketch? Is that okay?
That could be a suggestion in the motion then. I would suggest that if you're going to make a motion that be, I guess the implication is that it's less official, not stamped by an engineer, that kind of thing.
That's correct, yeah.
Any other questions from Dylan or Adam online? Fabia? Nothing? No. Is there anyone in the audience that's speaking to this application or anybody online? No? Then do I have a motion on the application and the reasons for the approval or denial or deferral? Dan, go ahead.
Well, then can I put a motion forward to make that change on condition 1? That a motion that we change the word plan to sketch, just to make it a little bit more informal, but still pass the correct information along to the people that require it.
So the motion is to change the wording of the condition, or do you want to make a motion on the whole thing with that change? Because you can modify the motion, and we can vote on the whole thing all at once if you'd like.
You mean a motion to remove the condition?
No, a move.
Oh.
Make a motion on the whole application,
Yep.
or the approval of the whole
Let
thing.
me do that.
With the changed
Yep.
wording.
Sure. So I'll make a motion that it be resolved that minor variance application A3023 for 548 Kemp Road East to permit a minimum side yard setback of 0.9 meters for an accessory building, whereas 3 meters is required per section 4.18, table 2 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 7% for an accessory building, whereas 5% is permitted as per section 4.18 or 18, table 2 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, and to permit a maximum overall lot coverage of 15%, whereas 7.5% is permitted as per section 621, table 7 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. And I recommend that it be approved with conditions. And the first condition is due to the proximity to the property line, town staff will require a lot grading and drainage sketch demonstrating that storm water runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. This sketch shall include all proposed downspout discharge locations. And the second condition is just the standard clause that we get about the archaeological remains. I won't read it because Dale Hara already has.
Thank you. A seconder then on the motion with the slightly amended wording on the conditions. Adam? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. So it was approved, subject to that slight modification to sketch, so it's something you can probably draw, satisfy them, and it is subject to a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding.
Excellent.
Thank you for attending. Thank you. Okay, the next application is for the severance at 271A Main Street West, B0523. Dahara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, Adam has got his hand raised. Adam, do you have a question?
Sorry, Adam?
Yeah, I was wondering if they could maybe turn the microphone off on the podium because the camera is centered on there. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
How's that? Good? Oh, there we go.
Okay, so the second application is B0523 for 271A Main Street West. The purpose of this application is to sever 5,682.8 square meters of land shown on the sketch provided on the next page as Part 2, and to retain 9,261.3 square meters of land shown on the sketch as Part 1. So this is that sketch which was circulated with the notice of hearing as well. And this is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the current, visible conditions of the site from the main road. And these are the agencies that provided comments. So the Town of Grimsby Planning Department didn't have any concerns. The Public Works Department offered comment to say that the land being severed and transferred to the Bruce Trail Conservancy, Part 2, does not have legal access and is landlocked. The Niagara region has no objections to the proposed development. The proposed development is consistent with the PPS and conforms to provincial and regional policies. And Grimsby Power had no comments or concerns. And back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Joel, I assume you're here representing the owners or the purchaser of the severed lands?
There we go. Sorry about that. Oh, I see. That's what was happening. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have too much to add to the excellent staff reports, and I want to thank staff for their support for the proposal. I know it's a bit of an odd one compared to what you usually see here, but just in terms of context for what the Bruce Trail is trying to do. So over 60 years ago, the Bruce Trail was started as a way to raise awareness for the need to protect the Niagara Escarpment from encroaching development. And 60 years later, we're still doing that work. It's a little bit different now. It started as a volunteer effort, and everything was based on handshake agreements with landowners. But we recognize that that is a tenuous situation, as those agreements can be revoked at any time. So our vision is to secure the Bruce Trail in a permanently protected corridor along the Niagara Escarpment for everyone to enjoy freely. So right now we're 70% of the way there. So that means 70% of the Bruce Trail optimum route is protected on land that we, the Bruce Trail Conservancy, own, or land that our conservation partners own. So we're working diligently to secure the remaining 30%. And quite frankly, a lot of that 30% is properties such as this. There's at least 24 of these in the town of Grimsby alone. So I'm hoping that I'll be in front of you a lot more in the near future to talk about more of these. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for the excellent staff report and for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members first? Oh.
Sorry, can I just add that I forgot to read out the standard conditions that come with the severance? Can I read them out now?
Yep, go ahead. Thanks.
So condition number 1, that the applicant provide the Secretary Treasurer with deeds in triplicate for conveyance of the subject parcel, a registrable legal description of the subject parcel, together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for the issuance of the certificate of consent. Number 2, that the final certificate fee payable to the town of Grimsby be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. Number 3, that all conditions of consent be fulfilled within 1 year from the date of the notice of decision pursuant to subsection 5341 of the Planning Act, failing which this consent shall be deemed to be refused. And number 4, subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act 1990 shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the severed land. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members at all? Or comments? No? It's good to see you, Joel. Like you say, we hope to see you back a few more times. Maybe you could have some...
Dylan had a question, I believe.
Dylan. Sorry, Dylan.
Yeah, no, perhaps, no, not necessarily on the application, just something related to it. So if you want to go ahead and vote on this, I'm fine with that. If we could I just have a question, I guess, afterwards, just regarding this type of application.
Okay. Or we could answer it now before we vote on it.
Okay, my only, the one thing that and correct me if I'm wrong, but a while ago we had, I believe it was a church who came forward with an application. And at that time, the request was made. And I'm not sure if it was simply because it was deemed a church or if it was considered a registered charity. And I'm not sure about the status of this organization, that the fees, I think that were needed to be paid to the town were either reduced or waived. I know at the time that there was going to be, that was being looked at, so it was not sort of done on a case-by-case basis. I can't remember what the status of that is, so I just wanted to sort of raise that, especially if we're, if we're going to be seeing many more of these and it's for, a greater cause. So I just wanted to raise that. I don't think it certainly doesn't. It doesn't change my vote in this matter, but I think it's related.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Maybe we can deal with it a separate motion afterwards, the application. So thank you for that. So again, and no other comments or questions. There was nobody from the public, I assume, on this matter, and the owners aren't here, so I'm assuming you're representing them in part of this. So yeah, like I said, it's good to see, and hopefully we'll see you back more often. Maybe get some good publicity out of it, encourage some others to do the same. So having said that, then do we have a motion on the application? And the conditions have been read already, so I'm assuming if you're in favor of those, just to concur with that as part of your motion. Dan? Yep. And seconded by Adam. Dan, did you want to make that motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I find it resolved that consent application B0523 for 271A Main Street West to sever 5,682.8 square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as Part 2, to retain 9,261.3 square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as Part 1 be approved with the conditions that was read out by Dilhara.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor then say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. So again, it's been approved subject to the 20-day appeal period before it becomes final. Thank you. Now, further to Dylan's comments or questions, did you wish to make that a formal motion? I'm opening it up to this discussion at this point.
Well, I remember, Mr. Chair, at the time, and my memory is maybe not the best, but I thought that there was, and maybe it has never been acted on, but I thought that there was a move to make this not subjective to the committee of adjustment, that there was going to be a policy, whether it was our policy or a policy at the town when dealing with this type of application. And I believe that when we did deal with the one with the church, I think, again, I can't remember though, I don't know if we reduced it, the fee, or if we waived it completely. Adam, I'm happy to hear from you. Do you remember too, Mr. Chair? I'm sorry.
Yep, I do. I do remember that one. And I agree. I can't remember if it was waived completely or just reduced. But Adam, do you had a question or comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it was actually waived completely. That was for the extension of the church parking lot, I believe.
Yeah, and I think there was a severance involved too. They were splitting the school from the church, and there was some back and forth. So I mean, I agree, this might be something that staff can maybe comment on before we make a decision on this one, because this would set a precedent if they're coming back with potentially a dozen or two in this area. I know they're all deep lots fronting on Main Street West in that area, and the trail runs in behind them. So there potentially could be quite a few. So maybe we ask staff to just comment briefly on that, on the merits of this request before we vote on it and deal with it the next meeting or two.
And sorry, and just to add myself, I don't mean to do this to diminish the work that has to be done by staff. I'm just trying to sort of being consistent with what we have done in the past. So I'm willing to discuss that in the meetings coming forward.
Thank you. Walter's up ready to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. The fees are set by bylaw, so any changes or waiving of fees have to be done by council. Again, the committee can make a recommendation to council, but we can bring forward. I know there was a request to develop a policy, I think, by council to consider. I think we're looking at other ones like the hospital. There was some consideration for something like this. And also donations of money, I believe, or waiving of development charges. I'm not sure exactly, but there was a request by council to develop a policy, and I believe we're doing a fee review right now. It just kicked off the beginning of this month. We've hired a consultant, so this is something that probably should be wrapped up in that particular study that's being done, and we can bring it forward it's being run by the finance department. So it's something that we can bring forward through the minutes. If you could make a recommendation of some kind here, then we could bring it forward to the finance department to bring forward to the consultants as a consideration.
Thank you. That makes sense. So if we make a formal motion that council consider, I guess, this group or other charitable groups as part of their review of fees, and let them decide what's an appropriate action. So I agree. I don't know what or how we did that for the church. If it was part of the bylaw, I know we recommended a fee reduction, but I don't know where it went from there on that particular application. If we have the authority to waive it on a specific application, or it had to go through council at that time, I don't remember. But I do remember there was a formal motion made to reduce that application fee or remove it completely. So maybe then if you want to make a motion, Dylan, on the specific request that council consider including it in the next review or the upcoming review.
Yeah. So move that council review, fees, such as fees associated with the Committee of Adjustment for, registered charities or other not-for-profit organizations in their review of fees going forward. Delhara, I'll let you sort of wordsmith that for the minutes, but I hope people understand what I'm trying to put forward, and as well and also for the purpose of consistency. I don't necessarily think that, I think we need sort of general guidance, which it seems like this review is doing. So it shouldn't necessarily be left to us and to have council make a decision one-off on these kinds of things, especially given the work that does need to go in to them by staff in order to make a recommendation, and of course them coming forward to the committee.
Yeah, I can make a suggestion. I just kind of scribble something. You see if this represents what you're looking for in a motion or amend it. I was going to say that council consider waiving part or all the application fees as part of their current study of application fees. And it sounds a little bit repetitive, but for registered charities and other, I don't know if you want any other related organizations. I don't know if that covers the Bruce Trail in this particular you're a registered charity, I would assume, right, Joel? Does that cover it enough? I mean,
That works for me. I mean, that I think that gives the intent.
right.
And in a much more succinct way than I just said it. But the rationale being for consistency, given the work that needs to be done for these applications by staff at the committee and all others involved.
Right, and we recognize there is a cost of circulation and staff time and so on, so part of it is they're meant to reflect the cost involved. I think they do a study at the beginning, right, and they work out a rate that they feel covers everything in terms of staff time and cost and circulation and so on, so. But we also recognize that these groups are doing good work for the benefit of the community as well, so. All right, so that's your motion. Do we have a seconder? Dan, thank you. Any further discussion or comments? No? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, if any? Was carried, so we'll include that in the minutes and the recommendation to council then. Thank you. Thank you, Joel. See what you started? There being no further business then, I believe the meeting's adjourned. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a general question to the committee about letters of opposition for variances or consent. Would it be possible, and maybe this is something that I'm just new and don't know, or perhaps it needs to become a motion, would it be possible to have those letters in advance of the meeting or posted publicly with the staff notes and the comments that come from the different organizations that are involved? I just find it would be helpful to have time to think on letters of opposition and have all that information before we come to the meeting.
So normally they are circulated as part of the agenda package with, I believe, with names or phone numbers removed. Some of it's blacked out, but Delhara can maybe answer that. The intent is to get it circulated before, at least the Friday before, as part of the agenda package. Sometimes the letters come last minute or they come live, right, to the public meeting, so you don't always know in advance what they're going to say. Does that cover it, Delhara?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Anyone else then? If not, the meeting is adjourned. We are requesting, we'll circulate it just to confirm if we can postpone the next month's meeting by a week to make it January 23rd? 23rd. So, but we'll circulate that request if that works. So that's it. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a good evening.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Recording stopped.